Tonight on CFTK-TV News, the City of Terrace has a brand new fire chief. The Cassian Hospital in Terrace recently had a ceremony to officially open it, and more fallout from Chrystia Freeland's resignation is taking place.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cale Maslin, and here's what's making the news in the Northwest and beyond today. Though it's been open for a few weeks now, the official opening of the Cassian Regional Hospital was situated with many in attendance seeing the fruits of their labor. Here's CFTK's Damian Smith.
This Friday, it was the gathering to celebrate the opening of the new Cassian Regional Hospital here in Terrace.
You know, it was 2020 when we were over in front of Mills that Minister Dix came up and made the announcement that this facility was going to be started.
And it was also another step closer to reconciliation and recognition for the Kitsum-Kalem and Kitselis nations.
It is most fitting that this step begins with a hospital, a place of healing. Just as this hospital serves to heal the physical wounds of people along the Skeena, it too does this recognition help heal the wounds of our shared history.
The Cassian Regional Hospital symbolizes a commitment of these communities, the First Nations, of people working together to build an incredible facility that is going to serve people from all over the Northwest. It's a real testament to that work, and it's also a testament to a commitment to reconciliation by receiving a Kitsum-Kalem name, having Kitselis here, being all together to receive it and witness the ceremony. But it's about the care that this is going to deliver to the people of the Northwest.
Many showed their appreciation for the Old Mills Memorial Hospital, but always felt as though a new building was a need, starting back about 15 years ago.
Seafoam green paint peeling off the walls, equipment older than me. And I remember thinking to myself, this isn't right. This isn't a place we should be spending our final days.
This was an effort started really in 2010 with a letter to the provincial government at the time. So it's been 14 or 15 years to see this come to fruition. But I'm so proud that our government made the commitment to build this hospital.
And those who spoke had heavy hearts in wake of the passing of former Premier John Horgan, who died last month due to cancer. And Horgan was one of the leaders to accomplish the construction of this new building.
He was wholly dedicated to making government work for all people, for everyday people, and for people across this province. And he was here just a few hundred meters away, of course, to ensure that the replacement of this hospital was a priority for our government.
The Old Mills Memorial Hospital is expected to be demolished sometime in early 2025. From CFTK-TV in Terrace, I'm Damian Smith.
The deputy fire chief in Terrace has now been promoted to the top spot of chief. Joel Brosod has replaced Chief Chad Cooper, who had been in the role since June of 2023. Brosod previously worked for the Lacombe Fire Department in Alberta from 2012 to 2020. In 2020, he joined as a volunteer firefighter with the Terrace Fire Department while working as emergency program coordinator for the Kitsum-Kalem Band. He started with the City of Terrace as deputy fire chief in October 2023. In addition to his fire training, Brosod holds a bachelor's degree in psychology and has experience working in the area of mental health and addictions. The City of Terrace says they will aim to fill the deputy fire chief position in the new year. The Cassian Society has put out a release that they intend to operate a temporary winter shelter at their Turning Points housing connections on Lake House Avenue. The building is currently home to the Homeless Prevention Program Community Response to HIV/HCV and the Cassian Administration Office. The shelter will operate as an overnight-only overflow shelter with 10 beds between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. There will be no day programming at the provided location. The temporary winter shelter program replaces the prior extreme weather shelter program funded by BC Housing. This temporary 3-month program will begin operation in January 2025. The Smithers RCMP has put out a notice that is asking for public help to find a wanted man by the name of Timothy Bakanek. Bakanek is wanted for allegedly causing a crash that resulted in a death as well as a serious injury at the intersection of Highway 16 and 16th Avenue in Smithers back in 2021. Bakanek has been described as a 73-year-old Caucasian man who is 5'7" and weighs around 172 pounds. Coming up next, Canada Post's employees are now back at work. Welcome back. More fallout has occurred over Chrystia Freeland's sudden resignation from Justin Trudeau's cabinet. There are growing calls within Trudeau's caucus for him to step down. Here's CTV's Judy Trid.
Behind closed doors, the Prime Minister tried to calm the chaos triggered by his finance minister's bombshell resignation. Justin Trudeau says he'll consider his next move over the holidays, not soon enough for some.
The Prime Minister is living in a false reality. He's delusional if he thinks we can continue like this.
About 50 Liberal MPs are now calling for Trudeau to step down. That's 1/3 of the caucus. Making matters worse, the Liberals were decimated in a by-election last night.
He's at minus 38. We lost the BC by-election by 50 points yesterday. We lost St. Paul's. We lost LaSalle. And I think all of these are clear indicators that the Liberal Party will do far better in another election with a different leader. Canadians want a change.
Chrystia Freeland showed up at the urgent meeting and was applauded. She hugged the Prime Minister before she left. It was an olive branch that was sharply different than her resignation letter. She criticized Trudeau for spending on political gimmicks and not putting money in reserve to fight Donald Trump's threat of 25% tariffs. Freeland negotiated the last free trade deal with the U.S. under the previous Trump administration. On social media, the president-elect celebrated her exit, called Freeland's behavior toxic, and said that she will not be missed. The opposition says all this shows that the Prime Minister needs to prove he has a mandate to lead the country.
The only way for him to get that is to call for an election as soon as possible, because it would be absolutely irresponsible from him to maintain Canada in such an unstable situation.
The NDP has called for Trudeau to resign, but not for an election. The Conservatives are trying to taunt Jagmeet Singh into pulling his support.
Put his votes where his words are to trigger an election, to join with me in signaling non-confidence to bring down this government.
This is the last day of official parliamentary work. 9 cabinet ministers resigned in 2024. When the House resumes in January, it's possible the Prime Minister may not return. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
Staying on the subject, the former finance minister, Chrystia Freeland, isn't the only one unimpressed with the GST holiday. In her scathing resignation letter, she called it a gimmick, and for some business owners, it's a huge headache as they try navigating the complicated changeover. CTV's Craig Krause reports.
Christmas is just 1 week away, and for some British Columbians, Santa came early.
I'm starting to make a list of stuff that I want to buy.
A list with some items having no GST as the federal government hit pause on the 5% tax over the weekend.
Things aren't cheap these days, but a nice gesture.
The savings apply to dozens of things, including restaurant meals, children's clothing, and Christmas trees, although there are exemptions.
It has been super messy since the GST holiday kicked in. Business owners have been scrambling to try to put in these holidays on certain products.
Toy stores are among those significantly impacted. Tumbleweed Toys in Kamloops says staff has been forced to sort through more than 26,000 different items and determine what qualifies and what doesn't.
Collectibles like Funko Pops and things that are not necessarily meant to be a toy, even if they're played with as a toy, are not supposed to have the GST removed.
Confusion for the customer and staff that was sprung on both with a month's notice.
It would take us probably weeks or months at 8 hours a day to go through all the inventory, so we weren't able to get it done on time.
This all comes amid chaos in Ottawa. Chrystia Freeland walking away from her role as finance minister Monday, calling for an end to political gimmicks after including the GST holiday in her fall economic update.
It's another Hail Mary pass by the Trudeau government that's failed to connect.
In the meantime, British Columbians will have until February 15th to reap the benefits, whether they agree with the intentions or not, while businesses are left making it possible.
Is it safe to say you're looking forward to this being done?
I am, yeah. The only issue is now that, we've done all these changes, that all has to be reversed again. So that's the same work that has to be done again in February, which is kind of annoying.
Craig Crowe, CTV News, Vancouver.
Canada Post employees recently returned to work after being ordered back by the Industrial Relations Board, but as CTV's Martin McMahon reports, the job return wasn't straightforward.
The lineup of cars outside Canada Post's Pacific Processing Centre in Richmond caused a traffic snarl Tuesday morning. One of a number of facilities across the country where workers initially wouldn't go into the office because other unions had set up solidarity picket lines.
Of their own volition, other labor movements have come together to stop work happening at the PPC, the Pacific Processing Plant. We were met with support from BCGEU and the VDLC and the new Westminster Labour Council and quite a few other people stopping not only our workers from going in, but management, and really supporting us.
We asked an employment lawyer about these solidarity picket lines and their legality, given the workers have been ordered to return to the job.
Oh, you can throw people in jail, ultimately, not immediately. You can levy fines with the union supporting it. You could call in the police to break up the picket lines, and the government has to have the cojones to do that, and they should do that.
Eventually, those workers made their way inside, but there's still clearly a lot of anger about the fact they've been ordered back.
We're all disappointed. We were honestly hoping for better. We've been legislated back time and time again, and they've just found a way to send us back to work without legislation. We have to wait to see how the appeal goes through the CIRB.
It is a little bit too close to Christmas time for orders to get out on time, for customers to receive them prior to Christmas. However, this does provide some sort of respite for the business community.
The workers eventually were able to get into the processing centre. Canada Post has declined interview requests but says delivery delays could last well into January. Martin McMahon, CTV News, Richmond.
And now we take a look at both your nightly and weekly weather forecast. For tonight's forecast, the North Coast will see a chance of showers plus a low at 4 degrees and a wind warning. The Terrace-Kitimat area should deal with flurries at a low of -3 degrees, and the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District will most likely see a chance of flurries as their low dips to -10 degrees with a snowfall warning. And for your forecast over the next week or so, the North Coast, the week for them will consist of only clouds and a high bouncing between 10 and 5 degrees. In the Terrace-Kitimat area, the upcoming week will deal with basically just snow and a high shifting between -2 and 2 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, the next week or so will also see lots of snow with a high moving from -2 to -3 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there is slippery sections, utility work, compact snow, limited visibility, blowing snow, and the Usk Ferry has been shut down for the season with the cable car now in effect. Highway 35 has compact snow, and 118 has some slippery sections too. Highway 37 has some blowing snow, slippery sections, and the Mooleh Creek rest area is still closed due to flooding. Highway 37A has slippery sections, some more blowing snow on the Nishka Highway, and the Telegraph Creek Road has slippery sections as well. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of these provinces' highway cams. Still to come, Canada's dollar has dropped to levels being compared to early pandemic days. Welcome back. The Canadian dollar's the lowest it's been since the early days of the pandemic, weakened to a nearly 5-year low against the US dollar. Experts say contributing factors include political unrest and the recent Bank of Canada rate cut. CTV's Heather Wright explains.
On the 1st of this year, the Canadian dollar was trading at just over 75 cents US. Today, it dipped to 69 cents, its weakest level since March 2020.
Yeah, it's a concerning time, for sure.
It comes amid a backdrop of political instability, a strong US dollar, and aggressive rate cuts by the Bank of Canada.
And the reason that the Bank of Canada is cutting fastest amongst advanced economies
is that the Canadian economy is doing quite poorly, particularly relative to the United States. So I think in an attempt to stave off, higher unemployment rates and broader economic pain, the Bank of Canada is cutting those rates.
A weak loonie is, of course, good for exporters, but bad for consumers, who can expect to see prices increase, especially at the grocery store.
Before you could go grocery shopping with $100 and come out with something. Now $100 is you can carry it in one hand.
And with the busy travel season now underway, it means trips south will cost Canadians more. The loonie has lost roughly 7% against the U.S. dollar so far this year, with more uncertainty ahead as Ottawa navigates the looming tariff threat from the incoming U.S. president. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
Donald Trump is launching a new legal battle against the Des Moines Register for their pre-election poll. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, Trump's pick to lead the Department of Health and Human Services is lobbying lawmakers to give support before what's expected to be a contentious Senate confirmation process. NBC's Alice Barr reports.
In a lawsuit mixed with a message, President-elect Trump today suing Iowa pollster Ann Seltzer and the Des Moines Register newspaper over a pre-election poll that showed Vice President Kamala Harris ahead by 3 points in Iowa. The Trump lawyers arguing consumer fraud and that the poll was intended to sway the race.
It became the biggest story.
Though Mr. Trump ultimately won the state by 13 points, the Des Moines Register saying it stands by its reporting and will, quote, vigorously defend our First Amendment rights. Some legal analysts question the suit's foundation.
When you file a lawsuit, you have to say you were damaged in some way. What was the harm to Donald Trump? He won.
It comes after the president-elect won a separate suit against ABC News and a $15 million settlement over the Trump legal team's allegations that anchor George Stephanopoulos defamed him during an interview. The president-elect signaling more similar legal action could be coming.
We have to straighten out the press.
The Trump pick to head the FBI, Kash Patel, has suggested coming after journalists, later clarifying he means those who broke the law. Another controversial Trump pick, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., ramping up his rounds on Capitol Hill in his bid to lead the Department of Health and Human Services, addressing concerns about his views on everything from vaccines to abortion, voiced by even some Republican senators.
I don't know why he said what he said on the subject of abortion. I don't know what's in his heart and what he really believes, because he said so much stuff, some of which sounds like he's from outer space.
With pressure on the press and his own party, President-elect Trump testing the strength of his post-election support. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
If you're a dog owner, you've likely taken hundreds or thousands of pictures of your pooch. That was the case for one BC woman who's taken said hobby to a whole new level, winning a prestigious International Photography Award. CTV's Kevin Chirac has the story.
Leo, you ready?
Capturing the perfect puppy pose can be a challenge.
I would say patience is absolutely the biggest tip for sure. Leo!
Patience and passion is what drives Andrea Waffler to produce picturesque pooch portraits like these.
I try to keep it natural, like while enhancing what's already in the photo. Good job.
Over the past few years, the pharmacy assistant by day started gaining an online following, launching her own side business during the pandemic puppy boom. And earlier this year, she submitted this photo for the International Pet Photography Awards.
International Pet Photography Awards is the longest running pet photography competition in the world.
My entry was of a dog named Everest. She's a husky mix. Beautiful dog. We had the most amazing conditions that day, and it turned into one of my favorite pictures, I would say.
The photo earned her gold, awarded to just a few dozen photographers out of more than 3,000 entries from all over the globe.
Not only are the images technically excellent, but I think that they provoked a lot of emotional response, which I think a lot of the time we're looking for, in especially in competition images. We want to feel something when we see the work.
Amazing!
Since the award, she says business is picking up and now plans to turn her once favorite pastime into a full-time career.
Oh, nice.
Proving patience really does pay off.
It means a lot to me to be able to be in this position, and I hope to keep doing it for many years. to come.
Kevin Chirac, CTV News.
And now we turn our attention to how the stock markets are looking as of today compared to yesterday. The Canadian dollar is down 19/10 of a cent, the price of gold is down $8.70, oil is up 37 cents, natural gas is up 6 cents, aluminum is down $46, in Toronto the TSX is down 562.71 points, the Venture Index is down 14.94, in New York the Dow Jones is down 1,123.03, and Nasdaq is down 716.37. Still ahead, airport travel is about to really pick up for the holidays. Welcome back. Airports across the country will soon become very busy as the holiday travel season begins. CTV's John Musselman checked in at Canada's largest airport to find out what travelers can do to make sure their trip goes smoothly.
As the Christmas travel season is ready to take off, Pearson is ramping up its staff to handle the surge. And security officials want travelers to know there are things they can do to speed up the process.
A couple of the things we have here is your liquids, aerosols, and gels. Make sure that they're 100 milliliters containers or less, as well as they fit in a 1 liter resealable clear bag. Laptops, they all look the same here. So if you have kids, great activity, have them put stickers on it to make it noticeable, or put something that you would recognize in the bin with it.
And keep in mind, if you're traveling with Christmas gifts, do not wrap them beforehand.
No, they're not wrapped. I'll wrap them when we get there. We're going to our son in Colorado.
More than 2.7 million passengers are expected to pass through both terminals over the next 18 days. It's one of the busiest travel periods of the year.
We also have an app called the Mobile Passport Control app. Passengers are able to upload their documents before heading into U.S. CBP. There's the ArriveCan app, so for arriving passengers, they can upload their declaration up to 72 hours before their flight back to Toronto Pearson.
Cannabis is now legal in Canada. It is still prohibited to carry it across borders. Make sure you leave your cannabis at home. If you do come back into Canada and you happen to have some cannabis, make sure you declare it to avoid getting in trouble.
Passengers are advised to check the status of their flights before heading to the airport this holiday season. John Musselman, CTV News.
In time for the holidays, the Thornhill Fire Department once again put on their yearly display, the Festival of Lights. As part of the festival, the department requested food and cash for donations the past few weeks, where all of such donations will go to those in need. The group's ecstatic with this year's results, where they received $2,300 in cash, as well as 2,500 pounds of food. The department thanks supporters like Driving Force, Sight and Sounds, Holiday Inn, the Northern Motor Inn, and the Thornhill Firefighters Association. And with that, we leave you with a montage of the parade.